Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today I thought I'd take a break from making some news videos, which to be honest there will be a few coming out later, to discuss a topic which is kind of interesting. And it definitely is one which I'm at least a little bit personally passionate about, and also I think is key when it comes to open discourse, especially in an online community. So the first thing to understand is a decision was made today by Commander Nomad, who is the head live War Thunder moderator. Now, if you don't know what War Thunder Live is, it's an area of the War Thunder website where basically people can post, you know, their images, videos, quotes, and to be honest, there's been a few things that I've posted there which have been hidden from public sites, and generally they are about stuff which is known false information, such as looking into the dev files or talking about some bug issues, and then, you know, there are a few things such as insulting employers or moderators, where I said what Esmond did on the forums was a little bit shady, but luckily he fixed it, and I'm very thankful for him for doing it. And of course advertising and all of this stuff, and even some political things in there, because why not? But understand, you know, there's a lot of stuff which I've personally posted which are now hidden on War Thunder Live because of their specific rules. Now, let's talk about something that Commander Nomad said. As I said, he is the head moderator of War Thunder Live. So he is the top of the food chain when it comes to decisions regarding War Thunder Live, which is why it is, when a decision like this is made, there is only one person to look to, and that is Nomad himself. Now, understand that this video is in no way designed to attack Nomad for his opinions or attack the decision made. It is to discuss the decision, why I believe the decision itself is wrong, and also why I believe it's normally a bad idea, or the optics of the decision made is also completely off. So, first of all, Commander Nomad's statement, or at least the first statement before the edit, was this. So please be aware that the term weeb can be perceived as an insult, especially when it's used to identify anything remotely connected with Japan and or anime manga culture. Most users do not seem to know its origin, meaning, and just use it without knowing better. Much like a lot of users use the racial slur Jap as a short form of Japanese instead of JP or JPN. Since the partnership with DMM, there are quite a lot of new users from Japan. We also have moderators of Japanese origin here on War Thunder Live and in our staff. Do not use the terms mentioned above lightly and stick to the rules. So, of course, with lots of these statements, all this statement really says is watch yourself. And there is a lot of statements over the last few years when it comes to either online communities or, let's just say, policing, especially in places like Britain, which read exactly like this. Basically saying, you know, there are these things out there which, you know, we don't really like. We're not gonna, you know, we're not gonna tell you not to do it, but just understand that we're watching you if you do. And this is the whole problem with this. The statement here does not say that you cannot use the word weeb at all, but it will be used to make sure that that word is destroyed, or at least used to try and stop people using it, as they say, lightly, and stick to the rules. And then, when you actually look at the Nomad idea of where weeb comes from, which is, weeb is a short form of weeaboo, a term first used by users of 4chan to insult obsessive fans of Japanese culture. A nonsense word, weeaboo has been used since the early 2000s, almost as long as 4chan itself has existed. The shortened weeb, however, doesn't seem to have become popular until the early 2010s. Right, and what you've done here is you haven't told me what the definition of weeb is. You've told me what the definition of weeaboo is. You see the problem here? So already we are going to have some confusion in our terms, because you've told, and a lot of people will say, well, these are probably completely linked, you know? The definition for weeaboo will be the same as weeb. Well, that statement there does not tell me that is the case, right? And the problem with that statement of the definition that you've given, all it tells me is what weeaboo means. That's it. It does not tell me what weeb means. And this is an essential issue when it comes to all of this stuff. The first thing as well, it's used to insult. Now, War Thunder's guidelines go straight against insult. So the way that Nomad has written this is completely false. If you take that definition, which you are using for weeb and weeaboo, as true, anyone who uses it on your site will get either that message deleted, that message warned, or banned. It is as simple as that. And once again, your first sentence, Nomad, please be aware that the term weeb can be perceived as an insult. That is not what your second statement says. What it says is it is an insult. It's either one or the other, Nomad. And this is the whole problem when you use weaselly words. Can be is a weasel word, or it is a weasel phrase, let's say, just like could, or maybe, or might. You need to define these things. Otherwise, what happens is it leaves you open to abuse on your moderation powers. Which is exactly what's happening now. Because what you've done is just confuse a bunch of people, because you are saying that the definition says it is definitely there to insult people, and then you've said above that it can be perceived to be an insult. So even if you yourself are finding it insulting, right, it doesn't line up with what you've said. So the way, as I said, this whole thing feels is, you know, just watch what you say, we're watching you. It's a horrible feeling, especially to any community. Now let's look into 2 reasons why doing this today was a horrible idea. One of the wonderful things about the 27th this year is that it is Memorial Day. Now, if you don't know what Memorial Day is, it is a federal holiday in the US. Now, what this means is that everybody should have a holiday, meaning that everybody in the US is off. That doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, there are going to be some people who are still working, but the overall idea is that it is a completely national holiday, and it is there to remember and honor the people who died while serving the US Armed Forces to bring them the freedom that they hold so dear, right? So imagine if you have a community on War Thunder Live, which is mainly English-speaking, therefore mainly either European or American, and you pick Memorial Day to make this point. So you're going to have a bunch of Americans who are off work, who are off school as well, who are going to see this post because you put it at the top of everything, and you've chosen Memorial Day to do this. A whole point of Memorial Day is people gave their lives to give America freedom. And you are saying in this community they are not allowed to have said freedom. Are you nuts? The optics of this idea are absolutely abysmal. Like, if you'd done this like in a few days, or if you'd done this maybe a few days before, the reaction would be nowhere near what it is right now. And it's just the idea, like you talk about, oh, well, we have to care about other people's cultures, we have to think about what to do before we do them. You're not respecting the American culture then, because you've done this on a day which is supposed to be about completely the opposite of what you've done, which is why you have such a negative reaction for this. On top of this as well, there's the Streisand effect. So the Streisand effect is really fun. The Streisand effect is a phenomenon whereby an attempt to hide, remove, or censor a piece of information has the unintended consequence of publicizing the information more widely. Now, there was a court case for Barbra Streisand. She wanted to suppress photos of her Malibu residence, and what this did was, because people reported on the court case, then they showed more pictures of her Malibu house, and therefore, because she tried to suppress something, which most people won't have seen anyway, more people ended up seeing it. Circa 2019 Commander Nomad. You say that a lot of people were using Weeb probably because of the helicopter. Isn't that weird how trends happen where you see a helicopter which is obviously designed to pique the interest of anime lovers because of the fact of its skin that it has? You know, this is not an odd thing. For the general public. You know, we can make the connection in our heads. And then you decide to say, hey, by the way, all that discussion about this, and to be honest, at least on my videos and on live, I saw a lot of people taking the piss out of the people who were, you know, going after Weebs. They found there was more camaraderie in the "why the hell are you doing this, you silly idiots" than anything else. But because you have decided to get annoyed at it, now you have fallen prey to the Streisand effect. So before, people like me, many people on the Tech Hub Discord, which is where this was brought up to me, because I was at work at the time, and many others will have never heard of this being an issue. But now you've decided to blow it up. Well done. Well done. You could have just waited a few days and it would have gone down, but you got hurt, so therefore you had to do something about it. Now, why do I say he got hurt? This is speculation, I will say, and one of the interesting things is he has decided to blame it on he said that this idea needs to come into place because of the partnership with DMM. There are quite a lot of new users from Japan. The DMM partnership has been going on for quite a while now, so blaming that is just a completely false errand. We also have moderators of Japanese origin here on War Thunder Live and in our staff. Right, once again, you are passing the buck here. The whole point of this is not attacking Japanese people. If you call a Japanese person a weeb, that Japanese person just goes, "I am Japanese." And then they go, "Oh, cool. That's it." Right? You can even see it in the definition you've given. A term first used by users of 4chan to insult obsessive fans of Japanese culture. Right? Weeb, from my definition, which I've always heard it from, is this one. It's a derisive term for a non-Japanese person who is obsessed with Japanese culture that they wish they were actually Japanese. That is what I have always known it as, and that is the one which everyone has always told me about. Do you see the difference here? The one that Nomad has picked has no recollection of non-Japanese people being obsessed with Japanese culture. And this, of course, is a tactic to make sure that this makes complete sense. But if you look at any other definition that you can find on the internet, it will talk about the fact that it is not people who are Japanese who are obsessed with the Japanese culture who are weebs. Instead, it is the non-Japanese people who are obsessed with it, the Americans who are obsessed with it, the Europeans who are obsessed with it, and all of these different groups. Because why would it be weird for a Japanese person to be obsessed about their culture? It wouldn't. It would just be normal. Just like how a British person can be very proud of their heritage. Just like a French person can love French cuisine and hate the fact that, you know, they're on their Fifth Republic. Just like a German person can disagree with the decisions that led to World War II, but could goddamn really like bratwurst, right? Then Americans, they're able to eat themselves to death, but goddamn, they're going to tell you that it is their right to eat themselves to death. it doesn't. You wouldn't create a word for an American that's crazy obsessed with American culture, right? They're just called a patriot. And that's not even created for that reason. It is a secondary definition for it. So it's just really funny that that has been cut out of this definition. And I'm sure this is where a lot of the issues come from. Anyway, so moving on from this, Commander Nomad's a weeb. He's a big weeb, and I'll show you. So the first thing, 23rd of November 2017, he started a Girls und Panzer Hanger mod. Here's Commander Nomad's page. Here are the results for hashtag Girls und Panzer. Now, if you don't know what Girls und Panzer are, here, I'll show you. And there we go. It's a manga and also a TV show about little girls. Mainly, I believe they're supposed to be high school students, but of course, in the true anime way, they look like they're about 5, and they go around in tanks because, you know, that's, believe it's part of their after-school activities or something. Something odd like that, you know, I find it very odd. I'm not really interested in watching or reading books about people who look about 5, who are overly sexualized, who drive tanks. It's not my thing. Nomad, when it comes to his Girls and Panzer stuff, you can see he's made millions upon millions of skins, even tried to make a hanger, even made a decal for it. Then we have, he's even created some custom battles with showing off the skins. So you can see he might not be obsessed. Obviously, I can't make that value judgment, but he's definitely interested in it. The majority of his content on War Thunder Live is dedicated to Girls und Panzer. So he's a weeb, because Commander Nomad isn't Japanese. Commander Nomad, once again, is speaking on behalf of Japanese people, which is very, very wrong to do, may I just say. Let them speak for themselves. He's actually German. What an odd combo. A German weeb. I've seen this many times before in many different communities, and they all act the same. Very, very censorious. But the main thing to take away from this is it's very interesting, this right here. So, aggressive recon. Now, the way that he's, put this, I think is, interesting, but it could have been quoted in a different thing. You know, it could have been coded a different way. But he says, how fragile must you be to unironically get offended by being called a weeb? Also, the fact that you compare Jap to weeb is over the top. One carries some actual historical weight and can be used as a racial slur in certain contexts. The other is a jab at non-Japanese people with an obsession for Japanese culture and anime, completely identical. And then, of course, Commander Nomad says, it's not for us to decide that. The rules and regulation for War Thunder have been made to guarantee everyone a safe environment to enjoy the game. The posts in question have been reported by a user and a moderator took action. The whole point of this is you have made a decision because it is your choice to decide. You are the head live moderator. The book stops with you. There is none of this, it is not for us to decide what is offensive. No, that is literally your job, mate. Because if it isn't your job, whose job is it? It is your War Thunder Live. It is your place to moderate. You get the final say on these things. Please don't pass the book. It's just like on the Tech Hub, right? The Tech Hub Discord, if you want, there's a link in the description. I personally very much believe in freedom of expression. There is one word I don't like hearing on it, and it's the N-word. And because for me, I believe it has a very negative connotation, right? Now, the other reason as well, which I don't like it being said when I'm in a chat, and I still give people a 3-strike rule for it, is the fact that it's nice to see if people will live by boundaries. If there are rules in place that you set, and they decide to break them, then they're just bad actors, and therefore there is no reason to even entertain them. When it comes to stuff which can be perceived as an insult, or stuff which is going on top of the moderation that already exists, it is literally your job. You make the rules for this, Nomad. That's the whole point of this post. And I know for a fact that, as I said, you've written it like a British policeman. You've gone, look, you haven't committed a crime, but we're watching you. It doesn't give off the right taste. I'll just put it like that. So please stick by your damn actions and stop trying to obfuscate. This is literally the only thing you are supposed to do. God damn. The next thing as well, the reason why I was looking for Weeb on this page, it was kind of funny. I was going through a lot of the War Thunder staff and the War Thunder volunteers just to see, you know, do they have Weeb anywhere? And yes, some of them have used it in the past, and no, I'm not going to bring it up because I think that'll be very petty. But I will bring up one individual who I do have a lot of respect for. So these are the War Thunder rules on the forum. And a lot of these are copied over to War Thunder Live, just to understand how crazy this list is. And this list, if you read through it, is completely designed to stop people talking when the moderators want them to. There is a bunch of words in here, such as offensive, which are incredibly subjective. So it is very easy to just add that word weeb to the list, which is pretty much what has happened here. So this is why I personally don't like too much the War Thunder forums. I think you definitely need a set of rules to govern by. The issue is always the idea of, the idea of subjectivity, which is always going to annoy people, because it comes down to the whims of the person themselves, and if they're seen as a person who gets offended by little stuff such as weeb, then you're just going to have a lot of head spinning. Now, Nomad talks about the idea of Gaijin staff. I don't think the Japanese Gaijin staff made this decision. I think the Weebs did, who were on staff. And there are a few of them. If you've ever been part of their Discord. And also, it's kind of funny. Both Weeaboo and its short form Weeb are made up nonsense words. Their origins and intended use can be read in my statement above. No, the origin of weeaboo, not weeb. Also, they're not made up nonsense words. If you literally want to make that argument, mate, you could say the same shit about the whole English or German language. They're made up nonsense words to describe something. Come on. It's an awful argument. But anyway, Collusion. So Collusion is a game master or a GM, and he's a weeb. I believe he's a self-professed weeb, and that's completely fine. He's actually a really fun and cool, member of the community. If you don't know who he is, he's probably Fly's head mod. He's also recently just said that he's training to be part of the New Zealand military, so he has massive respect from me for this, and he's also a weeb. And as I said, he's a self-professed weeb. You can go to his Twitch channel and he'll talk about how weeby he is. And you can see here, my like for anime started when I was 9 years old, when I watched Dragon Ball Z. I got fascinated by the show, and ever since that I've been checking out new anime constantly. So far my favorites consist of Golden Time, Overlord Katai, The Fruit of Gujin, and also his favorite nation is Japan. But that's because the tank suits his playstyle, but eventually he wants to move to Japan. He also, he is part of a lovely little group called Censorship. So, we have two people. If we want to go down this route, Commander Nomad, if we want to go down this route, you are culturally appropriating. Is that okay? Is it okay to take another person's culture and do whatever you want with it, and as long as they're okay with it. When do we get to the point where we're not allowed to make fun of anything? Are we allowed to make fun of any nation? Is it just because you personally don't like weeb, or is it because it is highly derogatory? Because there are many British words I can talk about which would be derogatory to me. Chav is a big one. Just because of the place where I'm from, northerner is also can be used as, can be perceived as an insult. There are many things, many things in this world that could be perceived as an insult. The next point is, as I said, Commander Nomad, along with being a weeb, is also a German. And what has been interesting over the last few years is seeing Germany and seeing what's been going on. Now, obviously, I don't know his politics. I don't really care about his politics. I care about his decisions. And so far, he has made a decision to threaten the community for using a specific word. Welcome to Germany and their new hate speech laws. So, if you haven't been following it over the last few years, Germany has instituted a bunch of new hate speech laws in their books, and the idea is to stop social media companies for having hate speech on them and fining them if it is found on them. So it is trying to force social media companies to remove hate speech when it is posted from the user. Now the problem with this is Germany can't define hate speech, and the definitions that are used are so bloody subjective that they could be used for anything. And this is why people are so worried about the idea of hate speech, and they are so worried about their freedoms, especially in America, which, remember, you did this bloody shit on Memorial Day. The reason why people are so worried about this is because they see these over-encompassing subjective laws being put in by a lot of European countries, and going, why the hell are you doing that? Even in Canada, we have these types of laws. And once again, they're incredibly subjective. Go and look up the definition of hate speech, especially when it comes to the laws in Britain, and it comes to the laws in Germany, and it comes to the laws in Canada. It literally talks about, in the definitions, the subjectivity of these laws. And on an online platform like this, you're going to have to be subjective. But be open about it. Talk about it. Say what, stuff that say what biases that you have. People don't mind that. On the Tech Hub, a lot of the moderators, people have biases. That's okay. They're going to get annoyed by certain things. They're not going to get annoyed by other ones. But as long as a team, we can bring it together and work out, okay, well, is this the best way to approach this? How do we promote, people talking or discussing issues than other stuff? It's much better than just cutting them off of the cord. And then guess what? They just, they just disappear and just go and talk about it in another place where you can't control it. It's really, really, really worrying what's going on with hate speech laws in a lot of Europe. And also, you can also see the next stage. In Russia, they've just banned the idea of being able to say to the government, not say to the government, but what would be the word? Proclaiming hate speech about the government. So basically saying, I hate the government, or I don't like the government. They have instilled a bunch of new laws which are designed to quell that. And it's obviously to stop dissidents, even though people will argue, well, if people are just being, mean, that's not a good thing. Yeah, but you don't lock them up for it. Also, you talk to them about it. And then you can see the next stage, China, with their social credit system, where everything, all of your online presence and everything that you do is tied to a social credit system, even to the point of the people that you interact with. If you, as an individual, interact with people who have a lower credit score than you, the social credit score. So if you, in China, as a Chinese person, decide to interact with mainly people who have a lower social credit rating as you, your social credit rating will go down. Think about how insane that is. And there have been people who have been barred from traveling because of this issue. There have been many people who have had knocks on doors from police as well because of this issue. And this is why a lot of people are very touchy about this subject, because there is a definite road which countries are going down now, and you can literally see it by, plotting where each country is down the road. And America is still sat on this area of freedom of speech, which is great for it. And I'm very proud of America for keeping with it, and I hope for the whole existence of America, it keeps with it. But understand why people from there would get annoyed about this idea, and why countries which have hate speech laws, many people who disagree with them, would also get annoyed by this. And just as a little tidbit, talking about how definitions change over time, because as I said, He's told me the definition of weeaboo. You could maybe say he told the definition of weeb, but let's just say they're separate. This was created in the early 2000s, right? There's a wonderful word in the British dictionary. And once again, just understand, I'm not trying to be mean or discriminatory. You know for a fact that is not who I am. I have a great respect for everyone. As long as you show respect, I will respect you. Faggot is the word that I'm thinking of. Faggot, if you don't know what it is a food. Faggot is also a slang for gay people. Fag is also a slang for gay people. Thank you, North America, by the way, for doing that. Because, so when I was younger, in the place where I grew up, which was in the east of Yorkshire, one thing you would say to get a cigarette is, "Can I bum a fag?" Right? That is a common verbiage there. Can I bum a fag? Right? Now they've decided in America that fag means gay, and obviously bum, bumming, so which is public, public sex. So basically, they've changed that from "Can I have a cigarette?" to "Can I publicly bum you?" It's amazing how language changes over time, and depending also on where you're from. Here are all the listed words for faggot, and how many definitions. Even a Swedish scientist from the 1600s to 1700s, Jacob Faggot. And this is the problem with the whole thing, right? Definitions change. Cultural values also change. Maybe it's time to get with the time, and instead of trying to ban specific words, it might be worth just looking at the broader picture of things, thinking about the Streisand effect, thinking about how definitions of words change, thinking about why people would have a massive negative reaction to this, and also think about your own perceived biases because you're a weeb. Anyway, I hope I made my point clear in this, and to be honest, as I said, it is their decision to make. But it is also my decision to say, hey, there are places on the internet which are a lot less censorious than the War Thunder forums, even the War Thunder Reddit, which has a very crazy amount of rules if you look into it, and also the War Thunder Live. And they're generally places like Discords or general forums, and all I'll say is if you want to have an honest discussion about things, the Tech Hub is the place to be. It's as simple as that. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank B. Young, Blackie, Cyborg James, Daniel Stanton, John Ryman, Martinez, Matati, Moxie, Nito, Nick Graham, Alobralo, Sebastian Corona, Super Cacti, and Elove Goat and Seductive Trash Can for supporting the channel.